Welcome to another episode of Comedy for Life. This is episode 6, I think. I just did 5 episodes all about my book, Stand Up Comedy, how to create a 5-minute routine in 4 short steps. It was 5 videos because the first step is all about just getting stage time, brainstorming ideas, brainstorming details, finding the funny parts 1 and 2. Now I want to move on. I'm going to take a little break from the stand up comedy book and a book that I'm very passionate about. If you're ever in the car with me on the way to a gig, you're sick of me talking about this stuff, but I wish more people embraced it. I wish more people thought, oh, yeah, I need to do that. Because in 30 years of this business, it took me about 10 years to figure this stuff out. But I've been day job free now for 20 years. And last year, I wrote the book, Quit Your Day Job: How to Be a Full-Time Working Artist. How to think like an entrepreneur as an artist. I've said for a long time, I think the people that focus too much on the art rarely become professional artists. They focus so much on the art that they are really good teachers, right? It's not that they can't do the art, they're actually really good at it, but they focus so much on the art, they don't know how to get anybody's attention to say, hey, I'm good. And then they get bitter and then they become real estate agents or accountants or waiters for life. Sometimes they go into restaurant management. Long story short, they go elsewhere. Or they become teachers. I don't want anybody to ever think I'm putting down teachers when I say that. But it's true. If you really focus on the art and only art, in fact, there's so many people in our business that they keep going back to school because they're so afraid of the business. They go back and get their master's degree. And again, nothing against that. Go get your master's degree. They go spend thousands of dollars. They've already been to college. They're in student debt. And they go spend thousands more, usually of their parents' dollars, to go to an acting school in New York City because they didn't get it at college. And I think the problem is, it's not that you didn't get it, is that you haven't started using it. There's a lot of people in New York City theater schools that they don't get that chance to perform on a big stage. You go to college, you go do some Broadway plays, some musicals, and you're on a theater stage with 300, 400, 500 seats. If you're lucky, do some local theater. Maybe you did some community theater growing up. You probably picked up a lot of bad habits, but you learned what it feels like to be on a big stage, to perform for the balcony in the back of the room. A lot of people don't get that experience because they keep going back to studio style theater training, which is actually pretty good if you want to be on TV. But the problem is, if you're training just for TV, those skills don't translate in a lot of other ways, unless you're going to start doing TikTok videos, which is not a bad way to start. We'll go into that in a little bit. So just going to classes and just training your art and just working in a rehearsal studio, developing your art, probably prepares you to be a teacher more than it does a performer, okay? At some point, you got to get on stage. Go back to my first 5 episodes and go do stand-up comedy. I'm an opera singer. I'm a Broadway entertainer. 30 years ago, I was tap dancing in musicals, singing, acting, dancing. I sang in church choirs for 12 plus years, where I got paid to sing in DC and New York churches. I've done operas in Italy. I've done Broadway musicals touring the world. And I say that because we went to Canada for a couple of days. But international credits because we crossed the border. But I have sung in other countries. I have acted in other countries. But here's the thing. I got on stage early. I grew up performing. As a 10-year-old, I was with my dad at a community band playing trumpet, doing 30 gigs a summer, playing church picnics, firemen's parades. I did some theater early on. I did some theater here and there. I did some choir here and there. I did the school bands. I was more of a trumpet player growing up, more of a pianist growing up. So I did a lot of jazz band, a lot of orchestra. And at some point in college, I went into theater. But I had all this stage time to figure out how to translate what we learned in class, what we learned in the rehearsal studio, and put that on a stage in front of people. I learned how to use those skills to entertain the world. And before I left high school, I had done a couple jobs where I was getting paid to play trumpet for Christmas or Easter. $50 here, $50 there. In college, I was doing these jazz piano gigs because my teacher didn't want to work for $200. So he'd say, "Hey, go get so and so, go get so and so, get the drummer, get the bass player. You could sing, you can play piano." And we got our real books. And we just started playing jazz trios for a couple hours in Rockville, and we each made $50, and I made $50 extra for organizing it. So we made some money at 20, making $50 30 years ago. Not too shabby. Back then, I was working in restaurants when minimum wage was less than $4 an hour. My first job at 14, I was making less than $4 an hour minimum wage working in an old folks home at 14, delivering food, kind of like a waiter, but as you know, you just brought the food out. And at 15, I was working in the kitchen because I paid $1 more. So I'm making $5 an hour now, right? So after a 4-hour shift, $20. Now movies were $5 back then. So $20 to a 15-year-old in 1986, 85, not horrible, but still not a lot of money. Now you might make $60 in that 4 hours with in New York's minimum wage, 15, $16, right? So you might make $60. But how much does it cost to go see a movie? It's right? As opposed to, I think high school kids could start making $200, $300, $400 in 2 hours or so or less now, doing a few things I'm about to talk about. So learn your skills. But if you just learn your skills, you're probably going to end up being a teacher, or you're going to end up being a real estate agent or a salesperson, maybe a really good salesperson, maybe a really good business leader out there, because these skills we translate. I do corporate team building. These skills are amazing in all leadership positions. So that's, and if you're not really in it, you really love doing it, I recommend go get a real job, use these skills so you can be the boss instead of having a horrible boss, learn these skills, and then go do community theater and do it for fun. Because you'd actually, sometimes you'll have more fun doing that way. If you're in it for the joy of it alone, go do that. Those of us who are in it because we feel like this is what we have to do. You have to learn the business side. Now here, a little thing. If all you do is focus on the business side and you don't develop your talents, you don't become a great singer. Figaro. Right? Not the right? If you just know the business and not the talent, you're probably going to end up as an agent, a casting director, or a producer. You're not going to be a performer because you're going to get the job. You're going to do all the work to get the job, and then you're not going to have the goods. They're not going to hire you back. Or you're going to get the audition because you're really good at getting the audition. You're going to show up at the audition. You're not going to have the goods. They're not going to hire you. There are a lot of people out there doing the private event circuit with mediocre skills and booking themselves out there. So, but they have some skills. But but if you just focus on the business, you're probably going to end up on the business side. The people that are true working performers, artists, singers, actors, dancers, painters, sculptors, the people that are really making money from their art, unless they got discovered off the bus and got put in a movie at 17, 18, 19, they're out there creating opportunities for themselves, or they're working the business side, they're working the social media. I can't believe I heard somebody recently in 2025 complaining about having to be on Instagram as an artist. Do you have to be? No. But I know because I have thousands of followers on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. I have thousands of followers that I have people finding me and saying, I want you to audition for me. Or better, I have people saying, oh, it's between you and this other guy. He has 200 followers. You have 8,000 followers at the time on Twitter. A lot of them were purged since then. But back in the day when Twitter was a cool thing, I got the job because I would bring an audience to the project. Even that TV show that was so much bigger than me, I was going to bring hundreds of views to their project that maybe have never seen that show before. And they're going to get hooked on that show because they love that show. So it's sometimes you never know in the casting process. But quit your day job to me is all about creating opportunities for yourself. When you could find that balance of, I'm going to go to auditions, but I'm not going to wait to get discovered. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to create opportunity. I was doing shows early on at the Laugh Factory in New York City, and they screened a movie, Foot First Way. I didn't like it. I'm not a fan. Danny Boyle produced it, starred in it. Will Ferrell discovered it, put some money into it. And next thing you know, Danny Boyle is in all these shows. He's created a bunch of shows for HBO, East, West, right? And again, I'm not a fan. I don't know the shows. But he has his following, and he's got his fan base, and he's got a network that's giving him the stage time on their network, so to speak. The way a comic begs for stage time at a comedy club, the movie producers beg for stage time, airing time on the networks. And now more than ever, there are so many ways to monetize your talents. And so we're going to talk over the next series of videos, ways to say, I can do X, Y, Z, and I can make money in these different places. I can translate my talents in these ways. I want you to brainstorm today. I'm all about the brainstorming, right? It all has to start with a brainstorm exercise, because if you don't do that, it's just overwhelming. I want you to grab a piece of paper, and I want you to write down all the things that you can do. 1, how good are you on social media? What platforms are you on? Just write it down. 2, can you sing? What are your talents? Can you dance? Can you act? Can you do a monologue from Shakespeare? Can you move across a stage in a way that looks professional, that you don't look like the stage hand, unless you're playing a stage hand, right? You can walk across with some gravitas on that stage. Can you paint? Can you create art in some form or another, digitally or by hand? Can you speak in front of a crowd? What are all the things that you can do? Right? Can you play an instrument? List all the instruments you play. So if I was doing this list at this stage of my life, I can do some opera on a good day. You would never hire me to do the Met. I just am too far removed. I never got to that point. But at a party with 20, 30 people, if I start singing Nessun Dorma, oh my God, it's Pavarotti. It's not. But in a small room, I can fake it, right? So I can sing opera. I can do a little tap dance. I can do a few accents, not well, but I'm loud. I could do some Shakespeare. I could dance a little bit. I could hip hop dance a little bit. I know how to separate my shoulders from my hips. What? Renegade? What? Wait, right? I dance in front of a crowd, and they're like, oh my God, he can actually dance, right? I don't look like a graceful person. I'm a big guy, but I can move, right? What are all the things that you can do? I can play ukulele a little bit. I can play guitar a little bit. I can play piano a little bit more. I don't really play trumpet anymore. If I was hired to play trumpet, I could fake it. If I was pantomiming to play, I'd have to rehearse a little bit. I picked up the trumpet over pandemic, and it's been a long time. The embouchures, but I could fake it. I played a little da-da-da-da-da-da all of me. Now, brainstorm all the different ways that you can monetize those skills. What we're going to talk about in these episodes is basically the equivalent of starting a dog walking or pet sitting business, but for artists. If you like walking, if you like cats, if you like dogs, just put a flyer up at your local coffee shop, around the neighborhood, at the dry cleaners, go on Craigslist, go on Instagram, start an Instagram channel, said, hey, Walter's dog walking service, Walter's pet sitting service, and say, I do a quick little video. I will come to your house while you're on vacation and feed your pets. I paid a young lady $200. She came to my house for half an hour a day for 4 days each to feed the cats and one time clean up the litter. For half hour a day, 2 hours tops, she made $200 or $300. I forget what it was. Right? But at the same time, for 2 hours of work at Starbucks would have made about $40. She made $100, $200 cash, okay, for 2 hours of work. If she did that 10 times in a week, because you could, because that's half hour a day. So 5 hours a day for 4 days. If you made $100 to $200 each of those half hours for 4 days, all of a sudden you're making about $1,000 in 4 days cash, most likely, maybe Venmo, maybe Zelle, but you could start your own business. This is going to be the same thing. You're young, you're a fan of the Disney movies, and you know some princess songs, because what musical theater kid in high school and college doesn't know a few Disney princess songs? Get a dress on Amazon for 40, $50, get the wig, get a little Bluetooth speaker, put your phone down, attach the speaker, play the karaoke track off of YouTube or download it through or SoundCloud or whatever it is. Spotify, Apple Music, just play the karaoke track, sing a couple tunes, take some photos, make about $100 in an hour as somebody who has no references. If you're good, you'll probably make $300 to $500 for that hour. Bring the book, get the little book, right? $10 on Amazon, whatever it is. Get the little book version of the story. Take a picture in that Amazon dress and say available for parties. People know what that dress is, right? The blue dress, the yellow dress, the green dress. Each of the princesses have their colors. Every young little girl, 5, 6, 7 years old, has their favorite princess. And there are people out there charging $500 for these services. You could start your own company today, starting an Instagram channel, buying the dress up front, and a little secret, sometimes you don't even need to buy the dress. So you probably should buy the dress, take a picture, and say, I can do this character. Hire me. And then just put it out there. And watch the gigs roll in. I do improv comedy. As an improv comedian, I do shows. I do workshops. I have public shows where I produce my own show. If you watched my very first episode, Creating Stage Time, Getting Stage Time, I go into producing improv comedy, murder mysteries. I do workshops for schools, K-12 schools. I do shows for 5-year-olds. I do shows for college kids. I do shows at retirement homes, at libraries, at corporate offices. I have a theater in Times Square where I can bring all these people to do a show. I said, hey, give me $2,000. I'll pay rent on the space and we'll do a show. You want some food? I'll get catering. The venue you're at might have a catering menu. I just recently did a relationship with the Palm, big steakhouse. And I've done shows there where clients have brought me to perform for their events, either as Santa, I do Santa too, right? I have over the years played the Blues Brothers. I'm a soul man. I can sing, I can dance. So I did the Blues Brothers. It's harder now. I don't think I could do it now. I have a bad shoulder, a bad knee, blah, 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 blah. I'm an old man. I played Elvis at parties 20 some years ago. I'm 30 years old. And all of a sudden I put on Craigslist, hey, I can do Elvis. And somebody said, oh, I'm going to pay you $500 to do Elvis. So I got a costume off the web. I think it was off of eBay. This is before Amazon, really, before I discovered Amazon. I got a costume for $80 on eBay. Literally, somebody took a one-piece jumpsuit and bedazzled it and made it look like Elvis. I got the wig, I got the glasses, and I went. They had a band. I did 40 minutes with the band, and then I went around the room. Hey, I like very much. Took pictures, talked about peanut butter, bacon, banana sandwiches. $500 to play John Belushi from the Animal House, dressed in a toga, dancing at a party all night. I challenge anybody to tell me who has more fun than I have at these events. I have a lot of fun singing, dancing, and they're paying me good money to do it, right? Improv comedy, singing, playing piano and singing for weddings and parties, going to bars, even for a tip jar, just to get my name out there. There's so many ways to do it. And there's so much work out there. Every time I hear somebody say, oh, that you can't get work as an artist. Well, if you're just waiting in line at the audition, that's a very valid statement because there's 100 people out for that one job. And then people think, oh, I got rejected because I didn't get hired. No, there were 100 people. It's a numbers game. There's a 1% chance you were going to get that job, a 1% chance. As opposed to if you have a website, an Instagram, social media, listed out there, you just keep posting pictures, you keep posting things, you just let the world know you exist. Somebody finds you, they email you, and if they got to the point where they emailed you, if you're sitting in office trying to sell something by picking up the phone and saying, Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I've got books for you to buy. I've got a knife for you to buy. And you're just doing what they call cold calling. And you just pick up the phone, as opposed to using social media and other means to get them to email you. And all of a sudden, they're thinking about hiring you. If the price is right and you don't say the wrong thing at that point, you probably got the job. Said, hey, yeah, I'd love to work with you. This is my rate. Let me know if you want me to do the next step. Over time, you can figure out how to do invoicing. But here's a little secret: I don't pay for anything. Google Docs, Google Sheets, right? There's all these free versions. You used to have to pay $100 a year or so for Microsoft Word. Now I get everything for free just using Google Docs. And I eventually started paying for Microsoft Word because there are things that I do that are better on Word than they are on Docs. But for a long time, I didn't need it. I didn't need it. So I want you to start thinking of yourself as a product. And a lot of people hate that idea. People hate the idea of content, right? I don't do content, I make movies. Okay. A movie is one type of content. You created a product. It's a work of art. But when it comes down to it, I'm not trying to degrade it by calling it content. I'm saying the formula is simple. You create something and then you find a way to monetize it. You have a podcast, like I have a podcast. I don't know that I'm ever going to make money podcasting simply by saying I have 1 million people listening to this, so I expect to make X amount of dollars just by posting these videos. But for me, I've got a book you can buy called Quit Your Day Job. I've got a book called Improv Comedy, Business Success, Improv for Business Success, Stand-up Comedy, Sketch Comedy. I have a book of short stories. So I've created all these books that you could go buy for $10, and I'll make a couple bucks if you buy it. You can watch it or read it for free if you have Kindle Unlimited. A subscription for Kindle, you could go read it for free. All of my books on Kindle Unlimited. $2.99, I think, on Kindle. I try to make it as cheap as possible because that's just one thing I use, and I don't really make a lot of money on the books. Even the books are ultimately about saying, hey, I am out here using joy and laughter to teach the world how to be better salespeople, how to be better leaders, how to be better teams, how to be better customer service, how to be better in their personal relationships, how to be better students. We literally just did a show at a school, and it was all about test prep, a regular improv show, but we kept saying, hey, have fun, but never at anybody else's expense. Even when you're doing math, even when you're going to take a test, just have fun. And they paid us, and we did a show, 45 minutes, in and out. And we did 3 shows that day at 2 different schools, 2 shows in Queens, 1 show in the Bronx. And I had 4 actors getting paid to perform at schools. One, there are so many ways to make money as an artist. Simply by creating the content and selling the content, whether you're a painter, selling yourself as an entertainer, selling yourself as a teacher, there are ways to monetize your art in other ways. Merch. Most people that do these kinds of things, in YouTube videos, TikTok, they're making money from YouTube and TikTok, but if they're not selling something else, like a class, a workshop, or some kind of service where you're going to hire me to show up at your place of business or your home and entertain you or teach you something, they're selling t-shirts, and they make a few dollars every time you buy a t-shirt. They sell all that stuff, right? I'm a fan of the new Rockstars guys. I love Marvel. I love Star Wars. I wish they did better stuff with DC, but that's another story. I don't love a lot of the people that do DC. I love what they do with Marvel and Star Wars. I need somebody that does that for DC Comics. I haven't found anybody that I love yet. But they have their Nerd Riot shop, right? They sell t-shirts, and that's where they make most of their money. They're getting hundreds of thousands and millions of views sometimes on their videos, but they're probably making more money from the t-shirts. They're making more money from live appearances selling tickets. But that monster of a machine they have on YouTube, they could just show up in town and 100 people are going to show up at their event to hear them talk about this stuff live. And maybe they sell tickets for 20, 30, 40, 50. They sell more t-shirts at the event, right? A band, what a band does. I come from the music world. I learned a lot of this reading a book years ago about how to be a touring artist as a musician. And I book my improv show the way a jazz pianist would book a jazz ensemble. I've got myself. There are these things I could do by myself. You pay me this amount of money, I will show up by myself and do a show or a workshop. I even have an improv show that I could do by myself. You don't have a lot of money. You don't want to hire 4 people. I have a really cool show where mostly it's your people. It almost feels like a workshop, but I present it like a show so people feel like they're at a show. And we've done this at dozens of parties, birthday parties with kids and grandkids and everybody in between, 40, 50, 60 people for a 50th anniversary or a 50th birthday party, a 40th birthday party, a 60th birthday party. And I just show up. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to do this show. And all right, I need 4 people on stage. And I basically do a show and they don't even know. I don't even tell them that they're doing improv. I just say, hey, you're going to get up on stage and this is what you're going to do. And by the end of it, it says, oh my God, we just did improv. Or I have a corporate team building workshop. I show up by myself and work with 20, 30 people. I have a one-man murder mystery show, a clue party, or an improvised murder mystery show where I can just go out. But if you have the budget and you want the full show, I have 20, 30, 40 people that I could call upon depending on the show. For murder mysteries, I have this massive network of people. For my improv show, it's a very particular kind of improv show. I've got 15 people in New York City alone. I got a few people in Boston, a few people in Maryland, the DC area. And I could just drive there and hire people locally. And so you don't have to necessarily hire and pay for New Yorkers to come and sleep in a hotel and all those expenses. I can drive up, pay for my own hotel, and hire locally and do a murder mystery, right? Fly in if I had to. But the point is, I have dozens of ways to monetize my talents. And it was these things that allowed me to quit my day job 20 years ago. I've been acting, singing, dancing professionally for 30 plus years now on some level, getting paid to perform. Well, 35 years getting paid to perform somehow. But I did my first big Broadway type show at a dinner theater 30 years ago in DC, where I got paid hundreds of dollars to show up and perform. And then it took another 6, 7 years, almost 10 years to figure out how to quit my day job. And a little secret, I never did TV until I was doing this stuff. Because when I quit my day job, all of a sudden, I wasn't exhausted when I was auditioning. And I got cast on TV. I got called by MTV because I was in the clubs every night doing my comedy. The guy got a call at the club. Hey, I need a fat guy with a hairy back tomorrow. Apparently, I wasn't hairy enough. They had to put extra hair on me. I wasn't hairy enough, right? So you don't know what you can't do until you do it. You don't know what you can't do until you start brainstorming and letting the ideas flow. And one last secret I'm going to let you have right now. That number one rule in improv, yes, and is the number one rule in entrepreneurial spirit. 22 years ago, I got a call from a woman, a teacher in Connecticut. We've been doing improv for 6 months. She found us either through Craigslist, MySpace, I don't know how. We had a website, sort of. She did a search, we popped up. And basically she said, hey, could you do this for kids? I want to bring improv into the school. And we said, yeah, sure. We'll figure it out. You want to pay us? Yeah, we'll figure it out. I didn't know what to charge. I didn't know. I just said, okay, I will do it for this amount. One of our cast members grew up in Connecticut. They had a house we could stay at for free, so we didn't have to pay for hotels. We drove up. We did 3 days in Farmington, Connecticut, right outside of Hartford, and we had a blast. And that was the first time I realized, oh, I could make a living doing improv comedy. And now we do 300 shows a year for K-12 schools. So say yes. When somebody says, hey, can you do this? Don't do that thing that says, oh, no, I don't think I could do that. Say, yeah, I bet you I could. And figure it out. Skip that step. Skip that step of, I don't know if I could do it or not. Skip that step. Just say, yeah, I could figure this out. If you need some inspiration, go watch the documentary from ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. I was watching it the other day. I was like, oh my God, it's what I do. They basically said, I don't know how to do this, but we'll figure it out. We said, yes, we can. We'll figure this out. I don't know how, but they figured it out and they invented the technology in order to do digital films that all movies use now, even non special effects movies. There's special effects making the movie look prettier, right? So just adopt a yes and attitude and you'll figure stuff out. This is Walter Frasier. This is Comedy for Life. If you want the world to smile at you, lead by example.